Hello, everyone. We're going to let people kind of trickle in for another few minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Looks like we have a couple people still trickling in here, so we'll give it about another minute or so and we'll get started. Okay, we're going to get started today. Uh, First of all, good afternoon. Welcome to today's Office of Student Financial Aid webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mitch Recker, and I am currently a financial aid advisor with the Office of Student Financial Aid at Iowa State University.
And my name is Olivia Jacobin. I am a program specialist with the Office of Student Financial Aid in the Student Employment Department at Iowa State University.
Yeah, before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping items to keep in mind. I want to reiterate that today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the Office of Student Financial Aid's YouTube channel for future references. If you guys need to revisit anything, please do so there. Otherwise, we can always please use the Q&A. If you have any questions after this webinar, please feel free to submit any questions through the presentation. We'll answer as many questions as possible as time permits for the end of the presentation today. If we are unable to address your specific questions, we encourage you to contact our office for individualized assistance. A lot of times, some questions will depend on certain different aspects of things in certain student-by-student case. So if you have anything like those, please contact your office. We'll be happy to get you answers to those. Today's session, we'll be talking about work study and student employment here at Iowa State. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So let's get started. So overall here, just a quick agenda, what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all things student employment at Iowa State, different types, different ways to get involved, all those types of things here. One of the ways to get involved is through our work study program. So we're going to kind of go into detail, explain what work study is, how to get it, how to use it, all those types of things. We'll kind of give in detail. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So overall, just want to reiterate how there's 10,000 students here that work currently on Iowa State's campus. It's just simply something that we can't afford to lose. We rely on these students on a year-to-year basis. That the campus really couldn't coordinate, couldn't cooperate, couldn't do all those types of things without these students here on campus. So we truly wouldn't be able to operate without them. And because of this is kind of why the Student Employment Center kind of aims to support all these different, students, supervisors, kind of award them and encourage them to work here on campus, all the benefits, all the data that shows different reasons to work on campus and provide beneficial working and learning opportunities for students, both during their time here at Iowa State and as a profession as they start their career going forward. Yeah, so to start, we just want to go over some common misconceptions. We hear a lot about these at different resource fairs for incoming students, so kind of just want to set the record straight. The biggest one is that students don't have time to work. A lot of parents will come in and say, I want my student to get, situated, organized, all those types of things first semester, and then kind of start at, maybe later down the road. For starters, that's just something that the data doesn't show that's true. All the students, kind of have different schedules, so different, commitments, things like that. So I'm not going to say it's 100% for all students, but generally students have more than enough time to work here, maybe on or off campus. We'll kind of go over different things like that in a little bit. But generally, a lot of the offices here on campus are pretty flexible. Can, depending on how many hours you want to work is solely dependent on the student in most cases. So the no time to work is something that we hear a lot. Parents often say that too, and it's something that we just don't see a lot of. So just want to start with that common misconception. And then the second one is that it negatively impacts academics. The opposite is true. Working on campus or off campus for about 15 hours, 10 to 15 hours a week actually shows that increased GPA in academics for students. So we do have a university policy that students can't exceed the 20-hour a week limit for all positions. I know a lot of students work several different positions in different offices throughout campus, but it actually improves academics, not negatively impacts. So a lot of that's students coming in and maybe just using that excuse they don't want to work, but that is something that we see a lot of. And then one of the last things is that it doesn't pertain to future careers. So not everything on campus is going to, be exactly what a student wants. Lots of times students will work jobs that has nothing to do with their major. They might be doing research that has nothing to do with what they're interested in, and that's totally okay. Maybe it doesn't pertain exactly to a future, but we do like to emphasize how the career readiness skills we use can be implied or implemented in several different campuses or different jobs here on campus. So the career readiness skills we always focus on are communication, professionalism, time management, that technology, and leadership. And those can be found in almost any job here, both on and off campus. So, a student may come and say, well, I'm just sitting at a desk. I'm not really learning anything, or I can't have put anything on my resume from this job. Not always the case. Answering phones, that's communicating. Professionalism, showing up on time, working phones, checking students in and out on the computer. And as they get comfortable, they usually take on some more leadership roles. So all those types of things can kind of be implemented in almost every job, as well as problem solving, conflict resolutions, all those types of things. So it doesn't matter what you're working. A lot of times students will come here and it's their first job, and that's completely okay. A lot of times we have to teach them how to job. So one of the stories we always like to share is some supervisor will come to us and say the student didn't know how to call in sick or the student didn't know how to quit their job. So obviously with COVID a little behind us now, that threw a huge loop into us college students and what their first jobs were. So a lot of times it just, teaching them the basics on how to have a job in general. So those are a bunch of misconceptions. Another big misconception for work study is, you get picked a job for you, or maybe you can only do dining, rec services, certain jobs. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but work study job can essentially be anything on campus. And again, I don't want to get too into that right now, as we'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. So as well as those career readiness skills, we do want to recognize the benefits of hourly student deployment. So obviously, as you can tell here, we have a list of different things you can check on or that are beneficial for students. Things like borrowing less is always a good thing, right? We want to give the student as much aid and resources as possible so they don't graduate with as many loans as they can have. So we want to be able to have them budget better, borrow less, and increased retention is kind of the big one. Students who work while they are in college actually persist towards graduation at higher rates than students who don't. So the overall goal of college is, come here, get a degree, graduate, and find a job afterwards. That's one of the best things you can do is actually get a job here as an undergraduate student. Also, employee recognition, that's something we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But something that we really strive to do here on campus is recognize as many student employees as possible. I know a lot of our supervisors are really good at this as well. So a lot of the employee recognition goes along with working here on campus, and we try to give back to the students as much as possible. There's also different, like I said, going back real quick is the career readiness skills we kind of talked about. So those are the types of things that students put on jobs, put on resumes, and those will kind of lead to professional jobs when they graduate. So that's a big thing too. A lot of them are resume builders, things like that we want to encourage students to do as much as possible. Yeah, so just some quick data and surveys is 75% of students actually work while attending college. And then 75% of students are working to pay for that college. So 50-50 is on campus versus off campus. So what that means is 50% of the students who work are directly on campus here at Iowa State, while 50% go off campus to work somewhere. So we see that as a big kind of differentiator and see why we can, what ways can we keep students on campus or why are they going off campus? So one of the biggest reasons that students work on campus is just the flexibility and convenience, right? So a lot of students may live at a dorm here on campus or may live right across the street from campus. Wherever they live, usually it's pretty close. They can ride the bus, they can walk, they can ride their bike, all those types of things. And they're also going to be really flexible around a class schedule. So maybe they'll be, hey, I have a huge presentation coming up. Maybe I have a huge test coming up. They'll be a little more flexible and give you more time off. Whereas if you go off campus, they'll be a little less flexible, but the pay is going to be better. So when working off campus, that primary reason is better pay. A lot of offices here on campus just can't compete with the pay that someone may pay off campus. So those are the two kind of things we see on the 50-50 split on off campus versus on campus. And the secondly, those things that we're going to see is those skills and competency development. So those resume builders, those time management, communication, leadership tools will be second upon those things. So where can you get resumes, things like that. So that's just a brief breakdown on and off campus, what the reasons are, things like that. Yeah, so as I stated before, we do want to recognize the students as much as possible. So students at Iowa State perform invaluable work here. Like I said, we truly cannot operate without them. So we're going to try to recognize them as much as possible. They carry out important tasks, their passion, dedication, all while trying to gain those professional skills, help our university to thrive. We encouraged recognition throughout our supervisors. We encourage our supervisors to recognize them, support them as much as possible. And we'll talk about here in a sec how we can further do that. Yeah, so one of the biggest things we do is we have a Student Employee of the Year. So this is an annual awards reception that these employees are nominated by supervisors. And then all those supervisors that are nominated students, we have a committee that sits down, kind of sifts through everything, reads everything. And then at that time, a Student Employee of the Year is chosen. So we have a big event. Everyone's invited, not just the winners, but every student that's nominated by their supervisor is invited to a little dinner that we have. We have a big ceremony. We have some guest speakers. We invite the student employee to share some things or read their nomination letters because so everyone can kind of see what they're doing. Doesn't matter if it's research or something on campus as working in an office, whatever the case may be. Anything here on campus that a supervisor nominates a student for can be eligible for those types of things. So the winner is submitted to the National Student Employee Association, where we have regional and national things like that. Again, and they're recognized and awarded at a ceremony that is followed by a scholarship as well. So we also do want to recognize our supervisors, and those are also invited to the same reception ceremony. So we do have a Supervisor of the Year that students nominate supervisors for. So all things recognition for student employees and student supervisors. We like to, award them, recognize them. They are a huge help to our campus and in implementing the tasks that they do on an everyday basis. So we want to recognize them as much as possible. Yeah, to go with the Student Employee of the Year, we do have National Student Employment Week, which is the second full week in April. This is a campus-wide event that has various different food, prizes, workshops, all those types of things. So throughout every day during the week, during the second week of April, we have something every day, whether it be passing out donuts and coffee in the morning or, spinning a prize wheel, winning some free punch arrows, gift cards. We have numerous gift cards that we hand out during this week, as well as free food. Last year we did some type of budgeting workshop where during the budgeting workshop you paint piggy banks, all those types of things. So again, this is kind of goes hand in hand with the National Student Employment Week that we want to recognize the students as much as possible and kind of give back to them. So we want to make the students feel great about what they've done because they've been doing it for the most of the time they've been working all year. And we want to really award them for what they're doing. So this is just one small recognition piece that we can give them. Again, those are free foods, prizes, workshops, all those types of things that we can kind of recognize those students for helping us and help campus operate. Yeah, so next we'll kind of get into the work study. So work study student employment kind of goes hand in hand here. The work study program is a need-based financial aid program funded by the federal government here at Iowa State. So we'll dive a little deeper into that here. Next slide here. This is the federal work study definition is a federally funded financial aid program awarded to students based on financial need determined by FAFSA. So the biggest thing we ask for work study if someone wants to be eligible is you have to file your FAFSA. This is a big thing. We always encourage students to meet that priority aid deadline, which is always, something that's beneficial for them to get as much aid as possible. But in order to be eligible for work study, you have to file that FAFSA. So the criteria is you need to be registered for at least 1 credit hour at Iowa State. You need to show financial need, which is determined, like I said, by that FAFSA information. You need to be an undergraduate and U.S. citizen, and you need to be in good academic standing. So all those types of things need to be done before we can see if you're eligible for work study. Those types of things will be on a financial aid offer, which we'll talk about here in just 1 second. Yeah, so what it looks like for the student. So like I said, it's going to appear on a financial aid offer as an award. It's going to look just like any scholarship, loan, grant, anything that you have on your financial aid offer. It's going to look similar to those things. However, it's a little bit different. Work study is actually earned, not given. So a lot of people will reach out the first week of class, say, hey, all my loans, scholarships, grants, everything dispersed, but not my work study. That's because your work study is essentially the money that you will earn while working that job. So again, that's something that you're earned, you're not giving out right off the bat. Students can credit their work study earnings as financial aid. This reduces their student contribution on future FAFSA information. So this will help you in the long run. And the reason for that is because you can count your work study earnings as aid and not earnings. So that's going to help you in the long run when filing FAFSA in future years is potentially earning more aid, more other need-based aid, as well as work study. So something that's really beneficial for the student. It's also beneficial for the supervisors. Supervisors a lot of times will have a priority of hiring work study students, and I think we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about the job board. But overall, it's some student employment positions are work study only. So what that means is you're going to be priority higher if a student does have work study, or maybe one student has work study and one doesn't, and they're kind of tied and they only hire in one spot. Most times they're going to hire the work study student. So work study is a great tool, a great program for students to use. I know it's something that I used throughout college. When I went through, a lot of students we use that today, and a lot of students work multiple work study position jobs. So something that the student has a sole choice of doing. There's going to be numerous hundreds of different job positions on campus that can be work study, and anything on campus can be work study. So like I said, that kind of misconception is, oh, I have to work a dining job, I have to work a rec services job for my work study. It's not the case. Anything here on Iowa State campus can be a work study position.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Now we're going to kind of dive into some of the different types of employment that we have here at Iowa State, and specifically types of employment as a work study student. So the first type of student employment that we have is Iowa State's undergraduate research assistantship program, also known as the URA program. And this offers students a chance to experience really a hands-on work in a formal and research environment. And it also encourages students to pursue graduate studies by giving them like the skills and the experience in those research roles as an undergraduate student. And as a URA student, you'll get introduced to conducting research in a field that may be related to some of your future graduate studies or your future career. You'll also get the chance to work with other talented undergraduate and graduate students, which gives you just a really well-rounded view of what graduate research and fellowship experience might look like. To participate in the URA program, you first must be classified as a junior or a senior by the start of your first semester as a URA student. You must also maintain a 3.5 minimum cumulative GPA while in the program. The URA program does require work study, which, as we covered earlier, is a need-based aid that requires a FAFSA on file for the academic year. And then finally, you must complete a separate URA application and complete the interviews with any interested faculty members. The next type of student employment that we have on here for work study students is our community service jobs. And these community service positions at Iowa State give students the opportunity to engage in really meaningful work experience. It'll help improve the quality of life for community residents and solve problems related to community residents' needs. Community service positions within the work study program give students valuable and meaningful work experience that improve the lives of others. And this work experience also gives other students the chance to network with community agencies for further potential post-graduation opportunities. Community service partners can be found both on and off campus. On campus, we partner with places like the various animal farms, we partner with Parks Library, Memorial Union, and others. And then we also have some approved nonprofit organizations that are off campus that employ work study students. And these roles really just help assist the community. And some examples of these are the Ames Community Preschool Center, Overflow Thrift Store, SciRide, and a bunch of others. The next type of student employment for work study students is our America Reads, America Counts program, also known as our ARAC program. And this employs work study students to really help improve kindergarten through 8th grade students' reading and math skills and knowledge. And we partner with a bunch of students, a bunch of schools and agencies in the Ames and surrounding community area to help support the mission and engage the community. So as a student employee within the ARAC program, you'll gain valuable work experience in an educational setting, and you can help strengthen your relationship building and communication skills. And a lot of ARA student employees also establish really good professional connections with the schools they're placed in, and sometimes helping also those students aid finding post-graduation opportunities. To participate in the in the ARAC program, you must be work study eligible again. And as I mentioned before, that includes filing your FAFSA for the academic year, demonstrating financial need. You must also maintain a minimum 2.0 GPA while in the program. And then finally, you must submit an application to participate in the program and attend an interview, pass a background check, and then commit to attend all the required training and professional development sessions during the semester. So next I wanted to go into just a couple of commonly asked questions within student employment. And the first common question that we get is, will my paycheck as a student employee be applied to my U-Bill? So basically the short answer is no. All paychecks, whether you are a work study student or a student employee that is not eligible for work study, will be directly paid to you as the student in the form of bi-weekly or bi-monthly deposits. And unlike other types of financial aid, as Mitch mentioned earlier, any earnings are not directly applied to your U-Bill and won't disperse or anything like typical aid. So you as the student really can decide where you plan to allocate these funds. The next question is about the taxation of work study earnings. And, the question really is, are work study earnings taxable? And then for this question, the short answer is yes. And this really does apply broadly to all student employees. So this is not just for work study students. While student employee earnings are subject to state and federal income taxes, they are exempt from FICA taxes, so Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. Again, this exemption also applies to all student employees. So not just those who are in work study positions, all student employees will, their earnings will apply. So now that you know a little bit more about the types of student employment and some of the frequently asked questions, I wanted to provide you with some information on how to actually find a job, both on or off campus. Iowa State does have one centralized job board for all students, and it is called SciHire. SciHire has job postings for part-time jobs, both on and off campus, and for work study and non-work study students. There is typically an annual average of nearly 1,000 job postings, so there is no shortage or limit to the opportunities that you can find there. New positions are typically posted daily, and all employers and job postings are vetted through us. SciHire also does feature a filtering ability, which allows students to refine their search if they want to look for a job in a specific industry, pay rate, location, etc. So you will get access to your SciHire account shortly after you register for classes. And when you create an account and you log in, this will be kind of what your dashboard looks like. You can see on the dashboard itself, there's announcements, there's recommended events, your calendar, recommended job listings. And then on the left, there's a little bar where you can access things like your profile, calendar, the job board itself, resources for students, and a bunch of other things. So when you click on the student job board tab on the left, you will see kind of a list of all current student employment opportunities. From there, you can see the position title, you can see the company name, and a bunch of other information about the position itself. And on this screen too, you can click the little heart in the middle and favorite it if you want to save it, come back later. And then you can also see if the application is open and easily see whether you've applied or not. Also, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, when you're viewing jobs on SciHire, you do have the option to filter and customize your job search. You can filter based on the type of job, whether that be seasonal, temporary, part-time, and then we also just added an undergraduate research filter opportunity. And then you can also filter based on the industry or the function of the job. Additionally, you can select whether a job is on or on campus if you're looking for something that is specifically on or off. Um, and then not pictured here, but there is an option too to select jobs that are work study eligible. It's this little option over here, work study eligibility required to apply. And I did want to make a note that it will limit your search if you are work study eligible and you decide to click that, because it will take out job postings that hire both work study and non-work study student employees. So you may end up actually removing postings or more job postings than that you would be otherwise eligible for. You are free to use that option, but I did want to note that if you have work study, almost any job on campus will be able to use those funds. And then, like I mentioned earlier too, we have some off-campus jobs. So if you're looking, you can also filter just by on campus. All right. If there are any questions in the chat, feel free to ask any more if any have come up. Otherwise, we can ask any, or we can answer any that have been asked. See if anyone types in a question. I'll wait a few more seconds here. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on. Well, if anyone does have any questions in the future, feel free to contact us, specifically the Student Employment Center at studentjobs@iastate.edu. Otherwise, you can contact the Financial Aid Office, which is financialaid@iastate.edu.
Olivia?
Yeah.
Quick question, a couple questions came in. Is it hard to find on-campus jobs?
No, it is not. There are a lot of on-campus jobs. There are tons of different positions and opportunities in almost every department you can think of. And SciHire specifically, especially closer to when classes start, will have a lot of postings for you.
Yeah, at all times, there's anywhere from 50 to 100, 150 jobs open on campus. So it just kind of depends the time of year. But essentially, there'll always be something open on campus if you're interested.
Next question, is there a limit to an amount of on-campus jobs you can have or just the 20-hour limits?
There's technically no limit. I've seen students who have had like 4-5 different positions, but it may be hard to start to juggle those the more you have with that 20-hour limit if you're on campus.
Yeah, a lot of times too, some students will have jobs that only requires maybe an hour or two a month. So you may have several of those just because it's not maxing out your hours. Then you may work, 10 to 15 hours for one job and then maybe one or two for a couple different ones. So definitely can have as many as possible, but it is a federal law too, or federal policy to only work that 20 hours per week.
And then when are rec center jobs posted? We see a lot of dining jobs.
Yeah, dining just posted a lot of their jobs. Rec center jobs, if they're not already on there, will likely start to get posted closer to when classes start. That is often when a lot of employers do start to post their positions. I see one other question, Vanessa. I don't know if you wanna.
If a student has a regular student job and then qualifies for a work study job later, can the regular student job be transferred to work study?
If the student is eligible for work study, it should be able to be transferred to work study as long as it's not too late in the semester. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that would be okay.
Yeah, so if a student is already in a student job, and they do get awarded work study between the August 16th and the May 15th dates, their supervisor is able to submit that profile change and move them into a work study profile, so that they are utilizing that work study. And supervisors are able to run a report to see if they have students that are eligible for work study and have that award. So that way they can make sure that the students are able to utilize that award. So yeah, if your student has work study and want to make sure that they're utilizing that, just make sure that they're also communicating that with their supervisor as well, so we can make sure that they are utilizing that. And they can prioritize if they want to make sure one supervisor or one position's using it more than another. The student gets to choose which position, if they would like to, is using that award too.
Yeah,
And it
student,
says, sorry, go
student
ahead.
can always reach out to if they want, if they don't know, if they have work study or not, maybe they're eligible, maybe they're not. They can always reach out, and actually we do send out communication to supervisors if we do notice that, hey, that you hired a student that's work study eligible, but they're not in the work study job profile. So that is something that we do reach out to supervisors directly as well.
All right, next question. Do employers do video interviews before students are on campus? How is hiring done?
A lot of employers do video interviews. I think that's become a lot more common after COVID too. But some only do in-person interviews too. It really is kind of individual and depends on the employer. But hiring is often done just the general hiring process with interviews.
Can we have a copy of this presentation email or posted? Yes, it will be posted on the Office of Student Financial Aid YouTube page, and I have a link right
And
here.
it'll likely be posted not right away after, but pretty shortly after today.
Yeah, and I'll get that posted here for you all.
So that link that Vanessa just put in the Q&A chat there should take you right to the YouTube channel, and this webinar should be posted shortly. Doesn't look like there are any more questions. Again, if you do have any questions that do come up, feel free to contact us. You can give our financial aid office in general a call at 515-294-2223, or you can just email us directly at studentjobs@iastate.edu. Like we just talked about too, it will be recorded, this webinar, and it will be available on our YouTube channel for future reference. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great day.